there's one more other thing, of course, and that's the context. It's not only the content, the words that the patient uses, not only the information that he uses, but the way the information comes to you. The way a patient belonging to the animal kingdom behaves during case taking. And the context in general will give us extra information, will help us and will confirm, in the ideal case, our information, our content, or will contradict it, and then we have to go, as I told before in a session on the anamnesis, we have to go for the context. The context is more reliable because it's less controlled. So in general, the nosodes and mineral cases, who belong to the second dimension, are more or less straightforward. One subject, this is very generalizing, I will go into more details on this in these sessions, but as a general feature, there are one problem, and this one problem will be looked at from all sizes, all sides and all directions, and then we will have a general idea of this one thing. And in the consultation, it is as if the patient builds the one brick upon the other of this particular building, and this is the problem. The three-dimensional cases, which are plants, animals, and even human products, sarcodes, are in general more complex. They have many more stories. Those in general are the patients that tell you so much that you don't know what to do. You're overwhelmed by the simple bulk of information you get. They will tell you a lot of details. They will tell you a lot of stories, a lot of anecdotes. And in general, the patient is, how to say, interesting. It's very seldom you get a boring animal case. Somehow they know how to attract your attention. An animal case will relate to you. They will make sure that they have eye contact, or somehow they will be very careful to spot your reaction, to know what impression they make on you. I recall a case where a man came in. He was in his 50s, I guess. Yeah, he was in his 50s. And the first thing I saw was that his hair was dyed in black. So normally he probably has grey or greyish hair, but it was very black. So you could see it was unnatural, which is, at least in our country, quite rare. Normally men don't dye their hair when they're not in, let's say, show business. But he was a teacher, he was a professor. So it was quite uncommon. And during consultation, very often, or more often than would be natural, he made a remark like your hair is good looking, did you have a haircut? Or this kind of pullover you're wearing is good on you, this color suits you. And it made me a little bit uncomfortable, because it is not done in a consultation to have these reactions, these positive critiques on how I look, on my looks, because that's not the point. And I could see that his looks were important because his hair was colored, and so it was about our looks. And he was in a position, not in a position to tell me how I look, because I'm his homeopath. It was friendly, but it was inappropriate. And this is typical for an animal case. Like, to make clear, I'm a man, you're a woman, I've seen I mention how you look, and I give some comments on it. And somehow he would try to convey the message, and I like your looks. And all this is very inappropriate in a homeopathic consultation. This was his way to relate in a positive way. But in general, the patient will look for the attention to make sure you are very attentive, to make sure that he has somehow control on your reactions, and to let you know that he or she. In a case of a female patient, very often let's say, they spend a lot of attention to their looks. So in the books in the beginning, we had prescriptions of mostly snake cases, and they said the women are always overdressed and attention seeking and showing all what they have, and they have a lot of jewelry and they have a lot of colorful clothes, and sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't. A little bit depending on the sub-kingdom, but in general we can say there's more than average attention to their looks, the way their hair looks, the makeup, the clothes, male or female. And jewelry, yes, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, but they like to make themselves beautiful. That's the general idea. Then their talk is animated. The talk is vivacious. Most of the time it's a lot of humor, they have a lot of words, they have a lot of expressions, and they have lively descriptions, a lot of imagination, and your attention is captured, and that is what they're trying, to capture your attention. So you don't get bored. Somehow you're, how do you say, we say they're more or less charismatic persons, not always, but a lot of them are. They have this quality, this hypnotizing, but this is a big word, quality, to make sure to have your attention. Then, the way the consultation evolves is they mostly don't always throw all their cards in the beginning, but they give you piece by piece. This means maybe you know pretty soon you're in animal kingdom, but which animal? They will give you, let's say, a tail, a little bit later they will give you an ear, then a bit later they will give you a fur or feathers, a little bit later they will give you a foot, and it's only by assembling the pieces that you know in the end, oh, this is the animal. Of course this is a picture, and they won't do it literally, but in one story, one level, one example, you will get a hint to a part of an animal quality. Another story, another level, another hint, another animal, or another animal quality. For instance, very anxious about the children. Then in their, let's say, the chief complaint, there will be another animal quality. And then you hear a word like, for instance, poison. So again, you get one quality. It is an animal with this, and this. And only by assembling all those pieces, in the end, you will recognize it. And that's mostly how an animal case evolves. So it's not this one thing, this more or less simple line in which you can condense a mineral problem, but it's like more like a puzzle, and you get, as I said, one foot, a tail, and in the end you see, it's a giraffe. When we're sure we need a remedy from the animal kingdom, now we have another problem. Which sub-kingdom to choose? Because there are, of course, very, very many animal remedies. So, in our materia medica, they are underrepresented. Let's say if we have 1,000 remedies, then there are 850 plant remedies in general, and there will be 100 something mineral remedies and imponderables and combinations, and only maybe 10, 20, 30 animal remedies. Among the remedies that we know well, lachesis, sepia, tarantula, apis and lacuninum, we have at least one representative of different sub-kingdoms. That's the good news. Let's start with maybe the most well-known animal remedy, lachesis. If we study this remedy, we know now that a lot of the symptoms that are listed for lachesis are actually general animal remedies, rubrics, or general snake rubrics, like dictatorial or anger or biting, violence, desire to kill, escape, etc. By studying more snakes, even from our classical books like Crotalus horrides or Crotalus cascavella, Obotrops, Dendroaspis, Vipera, and more snakes, then we can have a more general snake picture. And this general snake picture, and you can see it also in the schemes, give us, let's say, general themes and words. For instance, we know they are manipulating, they are loquacious, they have deceitful, cunning characteristics. The plotting and the hiding is well known of the snake remedies in general. Of course, the violence with the rage and the desire to kill. And on the other hand, the fear of attack and the fear of death. We have the outspoken sexuality in the snake remedies. We have the ambush and the waiting for the opportunity, the suddenness as well. We have the problems with the throat, with the choking, and we know the tongue, the split tongue, is very important in snake talk and behavior. They are calculative, they are manipulative, and they have, as we say, a split tongue. They can be very poisonous. So this gives us a more general, understandable, and maybe easy to detect overall picture of the snakes. Once you have the subkingdom, then it would be too long for this session to explain in all details or to discuss all the different snakes. So the next step is to go to the Materia Medica and study the best suitable rubrics. We have warm snakes and cold snakes, so that's a differentiation. We have poisonous snakes or non-poisonous snakes, strangulating snakes, so that's another differentiation to make. We have groups like the group belonging to the Lachesis group or the Crotalus group or the Viperas. So we have to discern which is the main group, and we should go to the modern provings. We have a lot of modern provings of snakes now, and then we can go for the rubrics as we always do in a classical repertorization. Another well-known subkingdom from our classical Materia Medica is the kingdom of the spiders. And we know this kingdom, or this subkingdom, by the best known remedy. The representative is Tarantula. If we study other, also in our classical books mentioned remedies like Aranea, Aranea ixobola, Aranea diadema, Pteridion, Atrax robusta, Latrodectus mactans, Loxosceles reclusa, and others, then we get a more generalized spider picture. And we know more or less the keywords, which are violence, desire to kill, again poison, the same as we heard in the snake kingdom. They are known for being very restless, moving very fast, very speedy, attention-seeking behavior by dancing and singing, and you know, the name of Tarantula is due to the dance. That is so called, saving for people who were intoxicated. But there's also the paralysis, there is the pretending and the cunning behavior, the deceitful behavior, you know, the hiding, and the violence, and also waiting for an occasion. So this is the more or less general spider picture, and again, it would take us too far to go into details to determine which spider you need, because it is always the last thing to do is to go to the Materia Medica and to check. But we have groups in the subkingdoms, even we have groups, and this will give us at least some hint where to look. We have spiders, web spiders. Then if we know we need a web spider, we don't have to study the others. So how can we know we need a web spider? It's quite simple. There must be a web in the case. Not always the person will literally say something like, I will spin a web, or I will try to catch him in a web, or they made a web and they caught me. But sometimes they do, and then it's easy. But if they don't, it can also be referring to something sticky. And that is often heard, because the web is sticky, and the person can feel and use the word sticky in an inappropriate way. Once I heard a patient say, these memories are so sticky, which is a very uncommon expression, at least in our language. We don't have sticky memories. Or they feel other people are sticky, something is sticking to them. I even heard the patient said to her, how to say, she wasn't very happy with it, but she said, I can't find a partner who will stick around long enough. But this was an Atrax case. So either the web will be there directly or indirectly, and it can also be a reference to ropes or threads that can make you think about a web when you're already in spider subkingdom, and you already listen for which spider you need. So it's not because a person says, I'm losing my thread, that he needs a spider. But if you're already in spider kingdom and he's talking about threads, you might as well need a web spider. Another hint is, and I only heard it in web spider cases, that they talk about catapulting, because that is exactly what the spiders do, the araneas. They have a web, and if they want to move, they make a thread, and all spiders spin a thread. And in the wind, they are blown with the wind. It's almost like the wind catapults them or shoots them to another place, and there they land and they can make a web or whatever. So this is another hint for a web spider. We have trapdoor spiders, and they most likely will talk about the trap or the ambush or the being hidden, but all spiders hide. And very quickly they come into action, and then they jump on their prey, and then they take their prey into their hole. Or you have these wolf spiders like the tarantula, and they're actually running after their prey. So there must be something that points to a specific group within the spiders, and then you have to make your choice between the few representatives we have, because there are, I don't know, 80,000 spiders or something, and we have 10 or 15 representatives in our Materia Medica, but mostly that'll do, because, you know, when we're close enough, we are able to make a resonance, a healing resonance in our patients. So far, so good. We think now we have two distinct pictures of two different subkingdoms. The snakes we know more or less well, we're more familiar with, and the spiders. On the one hand, the snakes, who are legless creatures, big creatures in general, crawling on the floor, making this impression of danger, very scary creatures with a smooth skin and sometimes very colorful. And on the other hand, we have these insect-like spiders, with their 8 legs. They're small, in general, small creatures, hiding everywhere, also scary to us, but completely different species. We can read a lot about their way of living and all kinds of differences, but I deliberately limited myself to the keywords from the provings and the way they present in cases. And then we see that, in fact, there are a lot of similarities. There is a lot of resemblance when people start to tell about their stories and their problems, and then we hear the same words coming up. I can give you a few examples, and then you will see how very often we can be confused between spiders and snakes, although we think we wouldn't, because the animals themselves are so different and their way of living is so different. But in practice, in daily practice, when the patient sits in front of us, we hear, for instance, the word, we hear them talking about a problem, or we hear them talking that they are having a fight, so our attention is going to animal kingdom, and then we hear they are suspicious about other people, they are manipulative, or deceitful, or they say the others are, and they feel persecuted. And it's still the same for snakes and spiders. Those characteristics apply to both of those kingdoms. We can have the patient in front of us, we can have an attention-seeking patient, but still this applies as well to snakes as to spiders. They can talk a lot, be loquacious, same for both. We can feel or we can hear that there's a lot of sexuality or the problems in this area, on the area of sexuality in their life or in their physical complaints, apply to both. We can have an element of poison. Again, we can't differentiate on the poison whether we have a snake or a spider. The fears can be very common. They can have a fear of attack, or they can have the feeling of attack, or they maybe have the wish or the dreams about an attack, or the fear to be killed, or dreams about killing or being killed. The way they feel persecuted or they feel of fear to be killed can be by poison, as I already said, but also by a sudden attack, and the suddenness is snake and spiders all the same, or it can be ambush all the same. Their reaction can be to hide, is the same for both, and wait for the good moment, that's what they do. They hide, they want to revenge, both of them, snakes and spiders, and they wait for a good moment. Mostly, in a snake case, they will need to be provoked. You have to provoke them once, provoke them twice, and then the third time they will strike. And this is more or less characteristic for a snake. Not all snakes, but there are snakes that want to provoke or feel provoked and only attack when provoked. And in a spider case, there's a different way, as I already explained, to get the prey. But we can hear words about deceitfulness, cunning, hiding things, manipulating, planning, revengefulness, and all this is snake as well as spider. So in the schemes I try to leave out the words, or most of the key words that they have in common, and concentrate on the differences, because this is a practical, for practical use, what I'm trying to do. The waterproof words for snakes and spiders, not the only ones, but the differentiating ones. Because the common ones you can find in your books, and often you will see that you have those words and still cannot differentiate between those two sub-kingdoms. Now let us go in a little bit more detail in the difference, because that is actually what we're trying to do. Differentiate between kingdoms and sub-kingdoms, and at least come to a result of one remedy. So the key word in any spider case, when you have a male patient, is the feeling of female domination, the delusion, I can say, that females are dominating, and they are dominating by their sexuality. That's the outspoken or unconscious belief of, let's say, the spider man. And we know in Spider Kingdom how a sexual encounter often ends for the man, for the male. So the idea is that since women are more powerful, dominating, the reaction is either fear or hatred, and mostly it's a mixture. It's because they are fearful they feel hatred and revenge. But the ideas, they're much more powerful than dominating, and they're dominating by the sexuality. If you have a female spider remedy, then if they have anything at all with sexuality, and mostly they have, they will be sensitive to exploitation in this area. They don't have to they don't have to have their own experience, but they will be sensitive in general. They will, in the outside world, project a sensitivity to prostitution, to mutilation, to violence done to women, and especially on a sexual sexual area. So the exploitation, the domination, and the prostitution will be sensitive areas for female spiders. You don't have this in snakes. As far as I can see, they don't feel this female domination at all. They will advertise their, let's say, sexual qualities. They're more advertising, the snakes in general. But it's not that they feel, the female snakes, that they are more dominant, that they are dominating to males, not at all. So I think this is characteristic, and it's a differentiating issue between spiders and snakes. But there are more. In general, I told you, the spiders feel small and powerless. And although the snakes are mostly shy and mostly hiding, when provoked they will attack, and then they attack to the finish. It's to get you and to finish you off. Spiders, since they feel small and powerless, they will have to hide and wait for the good moment, use all kinds of tricks and webs and traps in order to have their sudden attack. And their fear is to be crushed. Their fear is to be stepped upon or to be sucked up. And this is, of course, exactly what they do with their prey. They wrap, or they catch them and they take them to their hole, or they wrap them up and then they suck them. They don't eat the prey actually, but they put poison in it or enzymes, and it makes the insides liquid, and then they can suck it like a milkshake. This is typical for spiders. Snakes don't do that. They can bite, strike, poison, or shock, but they don't suck their prey. The teasing is more typical for spiders. The snakes are not that teasing. As I told you, they are mostly shy, they hide, and they only attack when provoked. In general, spiders have a tendency for hysteria, and you don't see that so much in snakes. In snakes, I would expect more control in general, more control, and have a problem with these two wills, which is a whole different thing. They have this antagonism itself, we know this from Lachesis, but it's general for snakes, and they have this opposition within themselves. It is as if they have two trains of thoughts. That's classical rubrics. Or they have two wills, and they have this contradiction of wills within themselves. This is more typical snake than spider. We also see this in the split tongue. We say they have a split tongue, which means that they have a poisonous tongue or a dirty tongue, and very often they're jealous. They talk with jealousy, whether it's open or it's more hidden. And also, this is more towards snakes than spiders. It's not that spiders can't be jealous, but snakes more often blame others to be jealous, but they have this jealousy in themselves. They have a quality of clairvoyance very often, snakes, they have a third eye, and we don't see that in spiders. So again, that's a differentiation between the two. The violence and the rage is mostly more outspoken in snakes than in spiders. Spiders usually feel powerless, small, and hide and wait for the right moment to poison you or to get you in their web. But they don't show this openly, this violence or this rage. Loquacity mostly is more toward the side of the snakes. They're not all that talkative, but most of them are. And they are sensitive to language. They like to use language, and they are sensitive to a good language. This is not so much in spiders. Another feature is that spiders are known to be very restless, but they have moments of inertia. And with this inertia, I mean they don't move at all, they don't do anything at all, they're just incapable of doing anything. And this is moments of inertia, and then they have moments when they move, they have this restless, speedy activity. What we know of spiders, but they're not restless and speedy all of the time. But if they are moving, it is this speedy movement we know of spiders. So the suddenness is in both, but the speediness is more in spiders. And of course then we have the physical complaints. which can be a differentiating factor for the two subkingdoms. In spiders in general, we have a lot of excruciating pains, neurological pains, cramping pains are very specific for spiders, whereas in snakes we expect more the congestion, of course the throat problems, the choking and the constriction at the throat, or the inability to have anything closed around the neck, problems with neck and throat and inflammation and everything, and the congestion in general. It can be a venous congestion, can be something with the arteries, or a feeling of congestion. Mostly spiders are cold remedies, and most of the snakes are hot-blooded. But there are exceptions. Viperas, for instance, can be cold-blooded as well. So you have to see where is the emphasis of the case, and then you have these clear differentiating topics that would make it capable for you to make a choice between the two. That will be it for the 4th session.
Now we have learned the differences between spider and snake remedies. Of course, there are many other animal subkingdoms as the birds, the insects, the mammals, the sea creatures. In the next session, we will learn more about the specific characteristics of mammals and of bird remedies, and how to differentiate between bird remedies and insects. So, gradually, we will come to know the complete animal kingdom.